It started with the way she stirred her coffee. Not the usual slow circles, but sharp, impatient swipes like she couldn't stand to sit still. I was watching her from across the kitchen table, pretending to scroll through Craigslist on my Samsung Galaxy A14. She didn't notice. Or maybe she just didn't care. Her name's Erica. We've been married 28 years. I'm 54, a warehouse supervisor for a freight company in Spokane. She's 51, an administrative assistant at a dental office downtown. We've lived in the same two-bedroom house since '98. Carpets worn thin in the hallway. The fridge hums louder in the summer. It smells like coffee grounds and old wood in the mornings. Familiar things. Comfortable things. But lately, Erica's been different. Quieter. Restless. She still sleeps on her side of the bed, but I haven't felt her reach for me in over a year. That Tuesday morning in late March, the rain hit the windows like static. Cold, angry. She wore a faded yellow raincoat and didn't finish her toast. No kiss goodbye. Just, I've got to get in early. Staff meeting. Her eyes flicked to the clock even though she was 20 minutes ahead. Something in my gut tightened. After she left, I sat in the lazeboy with my second cup of black Folgers. Turned on the news but didn't hear a damn word. Just stared at the rain and thought about how she used to tuck her feet under my legs when she got cold. Now she barely sat on the same couch. I don't know why I did it. Maybe because something felt off. Maybe because I needed answers. I picked up her laptop from the kitchen counter. She never logged out of her Gmail. There weren't any scandalous messages. Nothing obvious. But one name kept popping up in her emails. Ken, Ortho Supply Representative. Ken. Innocent stuff at first. Meeting times. Rescheduling deliveries. Then little things. Hope your weekend was relaxing. You always so organized, makes my job easier. Too many smiley faces. Too many damn exclamation points. I clicked open the most recent message. Subject, FYI, smiley face. Message, so fun bumping into you Friday. Still laughing about the gas station donuts LOL. Can't believe they had strawberry filling. Friday. She told me she worked late Friday. The timestamp was 9:17 p.m. I sat there in silence. My hands started shaking. I set the mug down too hard and coffee splashed on my jeans. Donuts? At 9 p.m.? I scrolled down. He'd attached a photo. It was blurry, taken at night. 2 white paper bags on the hood of a car. His caption said, "Classiest dinner date, right?" I stared at that one word, a date. I leaned back in the chair and just stared at the ceiling. The rain was still coming down. My chest felt like something heavy had crawled inside it and refused to move. I wanted to believe it was nothing. Just friendly. Just weird timing. But Friday night, she came home smelling like men's deodorant. Something strong. Not mine. I asked her about it then. She said, we had a new temp hygienist shadowing me, she wore way too much Axe or something. Gave me a headache. I believed her. I actually nodded and said, yeah, that stuff is awful. But now I felt stupid. Really, really stupid. At around 10:45 a.m., she texted me from work. Just one line. Thinking of ordering Thai tonight. Sound good? I stared at the screen. My fingers hovered. I typed, sure, then deleted it. Instead, I wrote, did you work late last Friday? 3 dots appeared. Then disappeared. Then nothing. I waited. 10 minutes. Still nothing. Then my phone buzzed again. but it wasn't from her. It was a message from an unknown number. "Hey, I'm sorry to reach out like this, but I thought you should know what I saw last Friday night. Erica. Chevron Lodoff Division." My blood turned cold. That Chevron was 10 blocks from the donut shop in the photo. Avoid generic emotional words, show specific physical reactions and sensory details. Use short, varied sentences and natural speech. I didn't respond right away. That message, just sitting there on my phone, felt radioactive. I kept glancing at it, like it might explode if I touched it. My thumb hovered over the screen for a full minute before I finally tapped it open again. "Hey, I'm sorry to reach out like this, but I thought you should know what I saw last Friday night. Erica. Chevron Lodoff Division." No name. No details. No follow-up. Just that. I stared out the window. The rain had slowed to a drizzle, streaking the glass like sweat. The neighborhood was still, just the occasional passing car, the sound of tires hissing on wet asphalt. The kind of morning where the world feels like it's holding its breath. I ran my hand through my hair, felt the grease on my fingers. I hadn't showered yet. My flannel pajama pants clung to my thighs. I still hadn't eaten anything. I called in sick. Told my supervisor I had a stomach bug. He didn't ask questions. Around noon, I finally texted back the unknown number. "Who is this?" No response. Nothing. I tried again. "What exactly did you see?" Still nothing. So I did what anyone else in my shoes would do. I got in my truck and drove to the Chevron. It was a beat-up old gas station, just like I remembered. Flickering overhead lights. A busted ice machine out front. One of those sad rotating hot dog grills inside, always empty. The place smelled like motor oil and burnt popcorn. I parked in the back corner, same spot where I used to pull in after long shifts, grab a Mountain Dew and a Snickers, then sit and zone out with the engine running. I looked around, trying to picture it. Erica's car. Some guy, Ken, laughing about donuts. Were they in his car? Hers? Did they kiss? Was it the first time? Or just the first time they were sloppy? I closed my eyes and tried to shake the image forming in my head, her biting into a strawberry donut, laughing, leaning toward him in the dark. That little sideways smile she used to give me when she was flirting. My stomach clenched. A sudden tap on my window made me jump. It was a kid, maybe 19, stringy blonde hair under a Seahawks beanie, holding a vape pen. He motioned for me to roll the window down. "You waiting for someone?" he asked, voice cautious. I shook my head. "No. Just thinking." He gave me a weird look and walked off. Probably thought I was casing the place or planning to off myself in the cab. I drove home. Pulled into the driveway just as Erica was getting out of her Prius. She was carrying one of those reusable Trader Joe's bags, full of groceries. I stayed in the truck and watched her for a second. Her ponytail was a little loose, strands stuck to her cheek from the wind. She was wearing that gray zip-up hoodie with the bleach stain near the cuff, the one she only wore on lazy days. She saw me and smiled. A little too wide. "Hey, you home early," she called out. I stepped out, tried to keep my voice even. "Yeah. Called in sick." "Oh. You okay?" "Yeah." She looked at me for a second, then turned and headed toward the house. "Want some lunch?" "I got those turkey wraps you like." Inside, she moved around the kitchen like everything was normal. The fridge door opened. Crackling of plastic packaging. The beep of the microwave. I stood in the doorway, arms crossed. Watching her. "What did you do last Friday night?" I asked. She froze, just for a beat. A flicker. Then kept moving. I told you. Stayed late. End of month filing, remember? I didn't respond. Just watched her face. She turned, holding a plate. Why? There was a message. Someone saw you. Chevron lot. Her smile dropped like someone flipped a switch. What? You heard me. She set the plate down, her fingers twitching at her sides. Who? Who sent you that? I shrugged. Didn't say. That's insane. I wasn't there. Really? I stepped closer. Because someone else says you were. And Ken sent you a photo. Strawberry donuts on a hood. Looked a lot like that chevron. Her mouth opened, then shut. She glanced past me, toward the hallway. Who is he to you? I asked. Really? Silence. Then, softly, he's just someone I talk to. I felt my jaw clench. Talk to? Dan, don't twist this. I was feeling. I don't know. Off. He's easy to talk to. I stared at her. You talk to me. Her voice rose, brittle. Not lately. You come home and you tired, you eat, you fall asleep on the couch. You don't see me anymore. I felt the sting, sharp and mean. So that's your reason? Gas station donuts and secret smiles? I didn't sleep with him, she said, voice barely above a whisper. We just talk. Sometimes. That night, we ran into each other. That's it. I didn't say anything. My hands were fists. I walked out. Went to the garage. Sat on the steps by the water heater. It was cold out there. Smelled like rust and motor oil and cat litter. My phone buzzed again. Another text. This one said, check your glove box. She left something there last Friday night. I stared at it, my throat dry. Then I got up. Walked back to the truck. Opened the glove box. Inside was a receipt. Motel 6. Room 118. Checked in 9:42 p.m. Checked out 1:06 a.m. Name on the reservation, Erica B. Avoid generic emotional words, show specific physical reactions and sensory details. Use short, varied sentences and natural speech. I stared at the receipt like it was burning a hole through my fingers. Motel 6. Room 118. Friday night. Her name, Erica B. Typed clean and sharp at the top like some kind of sick certificate. I read it 3 times, hoping it would blur, shift, turn out to be a mistake. But it didn't. It just sat there on that flimsy piece of thermal paper, mocking me. The garage was silent except for the low hum of the old beer fridge in the corner. The air smelled like stale laundry detergent and brake fluid. I sat down on the concrete floor, my back against the truck tire, and let the cold bite through my jeans. She lied. Not just a slip, not just omission. A full lie. I played back every word she said 20 minutes ago in the kitchen. We just talked. We ran into each other. She looked me in the eye and fed me that garbage. And I almost wanted to believe it. Almost needed to. But this wasn't just donuts anymore. It was a motel room. I reached for my phone and snapped a photo of the receipt. I didn't know why. Some instinct. Evidence, maybe. Proof for the inevitable confrontation. Or maybe I just needed it somewhere digital, so I could keep reopening it and wrecking myself all over again. I went back into the house. She was sitting at the kitchen table, untouched turkey wrap in front of her. Legs crossed, arms folded. She looked up when I entered. Her face was pale. "What was in the glove box?" she asked. I didn't answer right away. Just walked over, placed the receipt face up on the table between us. She didn't even reach for it. She just looked at it for a long time. Her shoulders dropped. Her breath came out shaky. She nodded once, barely perceptible. "I was going to throw it away," she said, voice quiet. "I don't know why I didn't." "You said you didn't sleep with him." "I didn't, before that night." "But after?" I closed my eyes. I didn't want to hear it. Not like that. Not in that slow, clinical voice. I wasn't planning to. I swear. We were just sitting in his car. Talking. He kissed me. And I should have stopped it. But I didn't. She rubbed her temples like she was trying to massage the memory away. "I felt wanted again," she whispered. "I know how that sounds. But I hadn't felt like a woman in a long time. Just a fixture in this house. An old sweater." I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. There wasn't anything I could say that wouldn't come out like a scream. "You were always tired," she said. "Always working. Always half asleep." And I let that become my excuse. "And I'm sorry." "Are you?" I snapped. My voice came out sharper than I meant. "You lied to me. Twice. Sat across from me and told me it was nothing." She flinched. I was scared. Scared of what? Losing me? Or losing him? That shut her up. I walked out of the kitchen. My hands were shaking again. I went to the bedroom, sat on the edge of the bed we'd shared for almost 3 decades. The mattress groaned like it knew I didn't belong there anymore. I looked around the room. The faded curtains she picked out. The bottle of her lavender sleep spray on the nightstand. The framed photo of us from a camping trip in 2003. We were young then. I had more hair, she had sunburned shoulders and a bandana tied around her head. We looked happy. Now, I didn't recognize her. And I didn't recognize myself either. I grabbed my duffel from the closet, started tossing in whatever I could find, jeans, t-shirts, socks. I didn't know where I was going. Just that I had to get out. She came to the doorway. "You leaving?" I zipped the bag. "I don't know how to stay." "Where will you go?" "I'll figure it out." She started to cry. Quiet, like she didn't want to make a scene. Like that would make it better. "Please, Dan. Please don't do this yet. Let's talk. Let's go to counseling or something. Let's try." I slung the duffel over my shoulder. Walked past her. Stopped in the hall. "You should have thought about trying before room 118. And then I left. I drove. Just got on the freeway and let the lights blow. My hands were glued to the steering wheel. I kept thinking about all the little signs. The moments I brushed off. Her staying late. Her locking her phone when she never used to. The way she started sleeping in a tank top again after years of oversized tees. I stopped at a Travelodge in Kennewick. Paid in cash. No questions asked. The room smelled like industrial cleaner and mildew. Beige walls. Faint buzzing from the light above the mirror. I sat on the edge of the bed and opened my phone. One new message. Not from her. Same unknown number. You don't know the half of it. Check her Pinterest. Look at the hidden boards. My breath caught. Hidden boards? I hadn't even known that was a thing. I opened the app. Her profile came up, recipes, houseplants, nothing out of the ordinary. But then I tapped saved. scrolled down. There it was. A locked board. Title: A Red Mornings. The cover image was a hotel room. Red comforter. Room 118. Avoid generic emotional words, show specific physical reactions and sensory details. Use short, varied sentences and natural speech. I stared at the screen like it might change if I looked long enough. Red Mornings. That's what she named the board. Erica had created a hidden Pinterest board titled Red Mornings, and the thumbnail was unmistakable: a motel room bed with a deep red comforter, wrinkled, slept in, the corners messy like it had been thrown together in a rush. Exactly like the photo on the Motel 6 website when I googled Room 118. My stomach turned. It wasn't just a one-time thing for her. This wasn't a mistake. It was something she curated. I scrolled down. Pins filled the screen. Each one hit harder than the last. 10 ways to make a cheap room feel like home. Playlists for secret nights. Outfits he'll never forget. There were recipes: chocolate-dipped strawberries, whiskey old fashions, spicy chicken wraps. And then, almost halfway down the board, a quote in cursive on a black background. He makes me feel like I never aged. That was the one that broke me. I sat on the edge of the stiff Travelodge bed, head in my hands, breathing shallow. The room reeked of bleach and old cigarette smoke. I couldn't tell if I was sweating or just cold, but I felt clammy all over. The carpet under my socks was damp in places. My phone buzzed. Erica. Please. Wherever you are, please talk to me. I didn't answer. I just kept scrolling. There were pictures too. One of her lipstick, ruby red. Another of a pair of heels I'd never seen her wear. Then a blurry shot of a man's shoulder in a dark shirt, his arm reaching across a steering wheel. Ken? Was that him? I exited the app. Locked the phone. Set it down on the desk next to a half-empty vending machine, Diet Coke and a cold bag of McDonald's fries I didn't remember buying. I wanted to punch something. Or scream. Or drive into a wall. But all I did was sit there, staring into the yellow ceiling light like it might tell me how to breathe again. How long had this been going on? And how had I missed it? I thought back, weeks, maybe months. Her sudden interest in buying new bras. The way she started humming in the mornings again. She stopped nagging me about the garage. She actually laughed at my jokes for a minute there. She was happy. And I thought it was me. Jesus Christ. At some point I must have fallen asleep in my clothes, because the next thing I knew, it was 3:12 a.m. and I woke up with a stiff neck, heart pounding, the Motel 6 comforter tangled around my ankles like a trap. I checked my phone. More texts from her. I'm sorry. Can you please just come home so we can talk? I love you. And then one I didn't expect. His nothing. He meant nothing. That's what cheaters always say, right? It meant nothing. But who the hell makes secret Pinterest boards about things that mean nothing? I wanted to throw the phone across the room. Instead, I opened Google Maps. Typed in the address of her dental office. Then sat there, staring at the route. 7 miles. At 3 a.m., I could be there in 15 minutes. Not to confront her, I wasn't that guy. But maybe to see him. Ken. The ortho rep. I didn't even know his last name yet, but I could feel him in my blood. I imagined the two of them together in that motel room. What she wore. The things she said. The way she looked at him. Did she arch her back the way she used to when we were younger? Did she whisper his name? The thought made me feel physically ill. I got up, splashed cold water on my face in the stained sink. The mirror was scratched and dirty, but my reflection looked worse, eyes sunken, hair matted, a 54-year-old man unraveling in a cheap hotel bathroom. By sunrise, I was back in the truck, engine running, heater humming low. I pulled into a gas station outside town and grabbed a black coffee, a blueberry muffin I didn't touch, and a copy of the local paper I didn't even look at. I sat in the parking lot for nearly an hour. Just thinking. Not planning. Not deciding. Just staring. Then my phone buzzed again. But it wasn't Erica. It was a new number. No name. No profile pic. Just one line. Check the dash cam from her car. I know you installed it. My throat went dry. Because I had. Almost a year ago, after someone sideswiped her Prius in the Target lot. I installed a front cam, cheap one from Amazon, wired under the dash. She never paid it any attention. I never told her it auto-recorded when the car was on. Or that I synced it to my laptop. I tossed the coffee into the trash can, pulled out of the lot, and turned toward home. My pulse was racing the whole way there. I got to the house just after 7. The driveway was empty. Her car was gone, already at work. I didn't even go inside. I opened the garage, powered up my laptop on the tool bench, connected the wireless SD sync I'd set up. Took a few minutes to buffer. Then folders popped up. Dated by week. I clicked the one marked last Friday. 9:41 p.m., dashcam flicks on. Interior audio enabled. The car pulls into the motel lot. Passenger door opens. Someone gets in. Her voice. Then his. He laughs. Says something about still smells like peppermint in here. She laughs too. Then a pause. Then the sound of lips touching. Twice. Then a low moan. I clicked pause. Then close. Then deleted the file. And for the first time in 24 hours, I said something out loud. Okay. So we're doing this the hard way. Avoid generic emotional words, show specific physical reactions and sensory details. Use short, varied sentences and natural speech. It's strange what your mind does when the truth is too loud to ignore. That morning, after I shut the laptop and watched the folder vanish off the screen, I didn't scream. I didn't throw anything. I didn't even cry. I just stood there in the garage, surrounded by the smell of gasoline and cold concrete, and listened to the soft clicking of the hard drive winding down. I felt hollow. Like my body was there but my brain hadn't caught up yet. The light outside was starting to shift, pale orange bleeding into a colder gray. Birds were chirping like nothing had happened. Like it was just another Thursday in Spokane. But it wasn't. I went inside and made toast. Didn't eat it. Just watched the butter melt and drip off the edges onto the plate. Everything I did that morning felt mechanical. Sit. Stand. Pour. Wash. It was like I was playing a part someone else had written. I tried not to think about the audio. That short, stupid kiss. The moan. I tried not to wonder where his hands were. What she was wearing. How long they stayed parked before going into the room. But my brain went there anyway. It replayed every noise, every pause, like it wanted to torture me in high definition. I walked into the living room. The curtains were still half closed, casting thin shadows across the carpet. Her throw blanket was bunched up at one end of the couch, same one we used to share for movies. The same spot where she once fell asleep on my shoulder watching Shawshank Redemption for the 100th time. I picked it up. Sniffed it. Still smelled faintly like her, coconut shampoo and a trace of fabric softener. I dropped it like it burned. I knew I couldn't stay in that house another day. I'd texted my brother Nate the night before, told him I might need a place. He lives across the river in Pasco. Divorced. Quiet guy. 2 cats, a fridge full of Miller Lite, and an old Nintendo he still plays at night to keep the nerves calm. When I called, he picked up after 1 ring. "You good?" he asked. His voice was gravelly. He always sounded like he'd just woken up, even at 10 a.m. "No," I said. "Can I come crash for a bit?" "Front door's always open." That was it. No questions. That's Nate. I packed the rest of my things, added some boots, a windbreaker, my old Levi's I hadn't worn in months. Tossed it all into the same green duffel I'd left with. I thought about leaving a note on the fridge. Something like, "Don't call me. Don't text." But I knew she'd ignore it anyway. Instead, I grabbed one of the fridge magnets and stuck the motel receipt to the door. Let her look at it every time she wanted milk. I was halfway down the street when her name popped up on my screen again. I should have ignored it. But I didn't. "Dan," her voice cracked as soon as I answered, "please. Don't go. We need to talk. You can't just disappear." "You disappeared first," I said, staring out the windshield. "You just used a motel instead. Don't do this." I heard the audio, Erica. The dash cam. I heard everything. Dead silence. "Then, you went through my car?" I laughed once, dry. "That's your concern?" She didn't respond. "Yeah," I said. "I did. Because while I was home making you soup when you had strep, you were out playing house in a Motel 6 with the ortho representative." "Dan, it wasn't like that?" "You moaned, Erica." That shut her up. I pulled onto the freeway. Rain started tapping on the windshield like nails. My wipers groaned across the glass. For a moment, it felt like the truck and I were the only living things left in the world. "I didn't plan it," she said eventually, barely audible over the static of the rain. "I swear to God, I didn't go there thinking it would happen. But it did." She started crying. I heard her breathing get shallow. And I didn't care. That scared me. I always cared. Even when I shouldn't have. When she forgot birthdays. When she got mean after 3 glasses of Chardonnay. When she used my worst fears against me in fights. I still cared. But now? I didn't. I hung up. Pulled into Nate's driveway 20 minutes later. The porch light was still on. His cat, Tucker, watched me from the window with that lazy contempt cats are so good at. Nate opened the door in sweatpants and a thermal tee. Wordless, he grabbed my bag and walked it inside. "You want coffee or beer?" he asked. "Coffee. For now." We sat on his plaid couch and drank out of mismatched mugs. His smelled like burnt cinnamon. Mine had a crack along the handle and a faint lipstick stain that didn't belong to anyone. He waited until I'd finished half the mug before saying, "So, you gonna burn her whole world down?" I looked at him. "I might," I said. And I meant it. Avoid generic emotional words, show specific physical reactions and sensory details. Use short, varied sentences and natural speech. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of bacon popping in a skillet and Tucker scratching at the screen door. Nate had this old country playlist going, some twangy stuff from the 90s. Garth Brooks or maybe Travis Tritt. I never could tell them apart. The smell of burnt edges and cheap coffee filled the house, same as it had since we were kids. He never used timers. Just guessed and hoped. I sat up on the futon, back aching. My shoulders were stiff from the way I'd slept, curled around that damn green duffel like it was a shield. "Thought I heard you talking in your sleep," Nate called from the kitchen. "Something about a glove box." I grunted. "Yeah. Long story." He walked in with 2 chipped plates, handed me 1. Eggs, toast, 2 crispy bacon. He didn't ask questions. Just waited. "I think I want to destroy her," I finally said. He didn't blink. Just took a bite of toast. "Okay," he said with a mouthful. "How?" I shrugged. "Not sure yet. But I'm not just gonna sit around crying into a pint of Häagen-Dazs while she pins crap on Pinterest about motel sex and strawberry donuts." Nate set his plate down. "She got cute with it, hey?" "Cute doesn't even cover it," I muttered. "She named the border Red Mornings. Like it's a goddamn romance novel." Nate's eyes narrowed. "You kept that receipt?" "Yeah. It's still on the fridge." He leaned back, crossed his arms. "You know, I used to deliver to that motel when I was driving for feral gas. Real dump. Mostly truckers and tweakers. Could probably dig up a few calls from SPD if you searched hard enough." I looked up. "You saying I could get her, what? Fired? Exposed?" "I'm saying," he said, "some places leave digital footprints. Security cams. Logs. Employee records. You just have to know where to look." For the first time in days, I felt something under the grief. A pulse. A little flicker of fire. "You think you could help me dig?" I asked. Nate nodded. "You're not the first guy whose life fell apart in a Travelodge parking lot. Let's get to work." He cracked open an old Dell laptop from 2011, duct-taped along one side, and started pulling up forums and archived directories. I made a pot of gas station strength coffee while he typed with 2 fingers and swore under his breath every time the fan whined. By noon, we'd found a Yelp review from March 5th, some woman complaining about loud noises coming from room 118. "Moaning and bad R&B at 10 p.m., she wrote. Sounded like bad porn." I laughed so hard I spilled my coffee. Then I bookmarked it. Next came public tax records. That Motel 6 had failed 3 inspections in 2 years. The last one, just 6 months ago, cited unsanitary linens and malfunctioning security cams. "Cams," I repeated. "Wait, did it say which cams weren't working?" Nate squinted. "Just that the front desk wasn't recording properly. Backlot cams were intermittent. If even one of them caught her walking out with him, then it's more than audio. It's proof," he finished. I opened my phone and pulled up Erica's calendar. She used to sync it with mine when we were still trying to be one of those organized couples. She never disconnected it. Friday night was marked, at budget prep, 7 p.m. to 10. I took a screenshot. My hands weren't shaking anymore. At 2:46 p.m., my phone buzzed again. Blocked number. Text only. Check her emails. Look for PDF titled Sunstone. Password is your wedding anniversary. I stared at it for a long time. The sender wasn't guessing. They knew things. Too many things. Sunstone. That wasn't just a file name. That was a beach resort we'd visited in 2004. We drank sangria in plastic cups and danced barefoot in the surf. She wore a red sundress that stuck to her hips from the water. The anniversary was June 22nd. I opened her Gmail again. She still hadn't changed the password. Search, Sunstone. 1 file. PDF. 3.8 megabytes, sent from a personal address to her work account. A week ago. I downloaded it. Typed the password. It opened. And then I stopped breathing. It wasn't about the motel. It was about a trip. An itinerary. To Santa Fe. Hotel booking. 2 tickets. Her name. And Ken's. Check-in, April 12th. 4 nights. Romantic getaway package. I stood up so fast the chair scraped the floor. This wasn't just cheating. This was future planning. They weren't done. They weren't sorry. This was still happening. Still alive. Still burning behind my back. I walked to the bathroom and splashed water on my face. Stared at myself in Nate's cracked mirror. The man looking back at me didn't look broken anymore. He looked ready. I came back out, set the laptop in front of Nate. You still know that guy who works city code enforcement? Nate raised a brow. Ray? Yeah. Why? I tapped the Santa Fe reservation with my knuckle. Because if they want this trip, I said, I'm gonna make damn sure it's one they'll never forget. Avoid generic emotional words, show specific physical reactions and sensory details. Use short, varied sentences and natural speech. I hadn't thought about Ray Daniels in over 10 years. Last I remembered, he had a crooked smile, a bad knee, and a side hustle reporting code violations in Spokane's more forgotten neighborhoods. The guy knew how to dig without leaving fingerprints. Nate used to help him on the weekends when money got tight after his divorce. Ray picked up on the second ring. Dan? Shit, haven't heard that name in a while. What's up? I've got something delicate, I said. You still run those reports? There was a pause. I could hear the sound of sports radio in the background. A low chuckle followed. Who's the target? My wife. And her boyfriend. Ray didn't laugh. His tone dropped. What kind of report we talking? Infidelity? Property? Business? Personal. But I want everything. Licenses. Work violations. Traffic. Hell, if he jaywalked in front of a church, I want to know. I heard him take a sip of something, coffee maybe, or a beer, knowing Ray. Send me what you've got. I forwarded the PDF Erica had hidden in her email. The Santa Fe itinerary. The booking number. Names. Dates. Ray whistled on the other end. 4 nights? She didn't even change her name on the reservation? Nope. Amateurs. Exactly. He promised to start digging and get back to me within a few days. Said he had a contact in New Mexico who owed him a favor. You'll get your dirt, he said. But tell me something, Dan. What? When you get it, what are you gonna do? I looked out the window. A neighbor's dog was barking at a crow on the power line. A kid zipped by on a BMX, wearing a backpack twice his size. I'm not sure yet, I said. But I want them to feel it. That night, Nate and I ate frozen pizza on paper plates and watched Tombstone like we were 16 again. He didn't say much, just let the movie run while I sat there chewing the crust without tasting it. My mind kept drifting, to that hotel in Santa Fe. I pictured her brushing her teeth next to Ken, laughing in a robe she probably picked just for him. I saw them in restaurants, maybe holding hands under the table, pretending to be a normal couple. They were building something. Something outside me. That's what gutted me more than anything. She wasn't just cheating. She was replacing me. And that I couldn't let slide. I got up around midnight, couldn't sleep. Walked out onto Nate's porch with a fleece blanket wrapped around me and sat on the step. The air smelled like pine needles and wet cement. Somewhere, someone was burning cheap wood in a fire pit. My phone buzzed. It was Erica. I let it go to voicemail. Then it buzzed again. Text this time. I know you're angry. I get it. But don't destroy us. Please. Can we talk? Just you and me? There was something slippery about the way she wrote that. Like she still thought she had a hold on me. Like she believed if she just said the right thing, she could walk it back. I didn't reply. Not yet. But I started typing something in my notes app. A draft. A letter, maybe. I didn't know what it was yet, just words. You didn't just break a promise. You made me feel disposable. Like a backup plan. Like a placeholder. And now I'm supposed to meet you halfway? No. You burned the bridge. I'm just watching the fire. I stared at the words until my eyes blurred. Then I deleted it. The next morning, Ray texted me a list of details about Ken. Full name, A. Kenneth Joel Rader. Divorced twice. 1 DUI from 2014. A warning for unlicensed practice in Oregon. A history of inflated invoices with regional suppliers. And 1 quiet settlement out of court from 2021, undisclosed terms. Sketchy enough for you? Ray wrote. Perfect, I replied. I spent the rest of the day digging deeper. I called an old friend from high school who worked IT at a local news outlet. Told him I had a potential fraud tip involving a supplier manipulating dental invoices. I fed him just enough information to pique our interest. He promised to flag it. Then I emailed the Santa Fe Hotel using a burner account I'd set up the night before. There may be a public health issue involving one of your upcoming guests. Please verify if a Kenneth Rader and an Erica B. are booked for April 12th, anonymous tip to follow. It was bait. I didn't care if they responded. I just wanted to start creating static around them. Ripples. I wanted Erica to feel paranoia every time her phone buzzed. By the time I checked my real inbox, there was a fresh email from her. Subject line, please don't ruin my life over one mistake. I didn't open it. She still didn't get it. It wasn't one mistake. It was a campaign. A constructed fantasy where I didn't exist. Where she got to play the lead in some midlife soap opera while I stood holding the credits. But the show was ending. And I was about to write the finale. Avoid generic emotional words, show specific physical reactions and sensory details. Use short, varied sentences and natural speech. The thing about betrayal is that it doesn't kill you all at once. It's slow. Surgical. A cut here. A lie there. A missing kiss. A look that lingers somewhere else. And then one day you wake up in someone else's life, in someone else's house, with your own memories looking back at you like strangers. That's where I was. Day 4 at Nate's. I'd stopped sleeping more than 3 hours at a time. My jaw hurt from clenching it in my sleep. I kept dreaming of her smile, not the tired one she gave me lately, but the one she saved for someone else. Ken. Her easy-to-talk-to soulmate in the motel. I sat at Nate's dining table, still in the hoodie I'd slept in, watching condensation drip down the side of my coffee mug. The air smelled like burnt eggs, Nate never timed breakfast right, and Pine Sol from where he'd half-assed a mop job before work. My phone was face down. I didn't want to look at it anymore. But I also couldn't stop. 10 new texts from her. 2 missed calls. 1 voicemail I hadn't opened yet. I finally tapped play. Dan, please. I'm not asking you to forgive me. I can't breathe not knowing what's coming. If you want to leave me, fine. But don't destroy everything. Don't take me down like this. I still have to work, I still have to live. I stopped the message. She still didn't get it. She was worried about her job. Her image. Not what she did. Not how she made me feel like a ghost in my own damn life. I scrolled to her contact. Typed 3 words. We'll talk soon. That was it. I wanted her nervous. Not screaming. Not desperate. Just off balance. I'd read somewhere that psychological warfare doesn't start with shouting, it starts with silence. With uncertainty. That's where I wanted her living now. Uncertainty. Nate came home around 6, tossed me a gas station sandwich and cracked a Miller Lite. We sat in front of the TV, watching some rerun of Cops, the volume too low to follow. I wasn't really paying attention. What's the next move? Nate asked. I want her isolated, I said. He took a sip. Meaning? She's got friends. People at the office. Co-workers. Most of them only know our marriage from her side. You want to nuke her social circle? Not all of it. Just shake it. Nate raised an eyebrow. How? I pulled out a copy of the Yelp review from the night of her motel rendezvous. Moaning. Bad R&B, thin walls. A timestamp that lined up almost perfectly with the dashcam footage I'd already deleted from my laptop, but not before making 3 backups. I'm gonna send this review, I said, with some friendly context. I drafted an anonymous email. Sent it to 3 of her co-workers whose names I'd found on the dental office website. Thought you should know. Someone's been spending late nights at Motel 6. Might want to ask about room 118. Your girl's been busy. Don't worry, I've got receipts. I hit send. Then sat back. Watched the sky darken through Nate's dusty blinds. Later that night, around 11:30, she finally snapped. My phone lit up with a FaceTime request. I let it ring out. Then she sent a photo. Her standing in our bedroom. Eyes red, mascara smudged. Holding the motel receipt in one hand and a bottle of white wine in the other. I deserve this, okay? I do. Just tell me, how much damage are you going to do? I stared at the screen for a long time. Then, without replying, I opened the Google sheet Ray had sent me earlier that day. It was a timeline. Ken's travel dates. Expense reports. Vendor kickbacks. Ray had traced thousands of dollars in double-billed items through a shadow company that linked back to Ken's second ex-wife. I stared at the numbers until they started to blur. Then I called Ray. Is this enough? I asked. To bury him? Ray said. Hell yes. I hung up. Saved the file to a flash drive. Tomorrow, I'd walk into his office with a smile and hand-deliver it to the CEO of the dental supplier they both worked for. No yelling. No accusations. Just facts. Let the numbers do the talking. Let the storm roll in slow. Then I got up, turned off the TV, and said to Nate, I'm going home tomorrow. He blinked. To her? I shook my head. No. Just the house. I need to feel the floor under me again. Need to stand in it, look around, and remember that it's mine. Not hers. And as I said it, I meant it. I wasn't crawling back. I was walking in like a ghost with keys. And ghosts don't knock. Avoid generic emotional words, show specific physical reactions and sensory details. Use short, varied sentences and natural speech. When I pulled into the driveway, the porch light was on. That annoyed me more than I expected. She'd always left it off before bed. Always said the moths made the siding look filthy. But tonight, it was glowing like a beacon, like she thought maybe I was coming home to reconcile. To forgive. To forget. I shut the engine off and sat there in the cab for a minute. Just breathing. The truck still smelled faintly like motel carpet and spilled gas station coffee. My palms were sweaty. I wiped them on my jeans. It was 7:42 p.m. I hadn't told her I was coming. Let her wonder. I grabbed the flash drive from the glove box and slipped it into my coat pocket. It felt heavier than it should have. Or maybe I was just finally ready to use it. The screen door squeaked when I opened it. I could hear the TV on in the living room, some crime drama she used to binge. A commercial was playing. Something about allergy meds and people sneezing in slow motion. I opened the door without knocking. The deadbolt was unlocked. She hadn't even locked it. She was on the couch, blanket across her lap, wine glass in hand. No makeup. Hair in a loose braid. She froze when she saw me. Dan, her voice was small, like she wasn't sure if I was real. I said nothing. Just stepped inside, closed the door, and looked around the room. It looked almost exactly the same. Almost. My recliner had been moved slightly. Probably so she and Ken could sit closer on the couch. My boots were gone from the corner. The throw pillow I always hated was back on the chair. Subtle changes. Territorial. You didn't answer my messages, she said, setting the wine down like it might shatter. I didn't know if you were okay. I'm fine, I said. She stood. Barefoot. Her toes curled against the carpet like she was bracing herself. Can we talk? I didn't answer. Walked past her, into the kitchen. The fridge hummed louder than I remembered. A half-eaten lasagna sat on the counter, covered in foil. 2 wine glasses in the sink. I opened the freezer. Still stocked with the stuff I bought, taquitos, frozen pancakes, the bag of chopped spinach I always forgot to use. I turned and leaned against the counter. She hadn't moved. Dan, she started again, I'm not here to lie anymore. I swear. I know I broke everything. I know you probably hate me. I tilted my head. Hate takes energy, I said. I'm tired. Her eyes watered, but she didn't let the tears fall. Not yet. I've ended it, she said, stepping closer. With Ken. Completely. I blocked him. I told my boss. I even talked to HR. I didn't respond. I know that doesn't fix anything, she went on. But I want to be clear. I'm not hiding anymore. I'll do whatever it takes. There was something rehearsed in her voice. Like she'd practiced this in the mirror. Like she was delivering the speech she thought would save her. Why? I asked. She blinked. Why what? Why now? Why stop? She opened her mouth, closed it again. Because it was wrong, she said finally. Because I lost myself. Because I thought he was giving me something I needed, but it was fake. All of it. I stepped forward. Then why were you still planning Santa Fe? She froze. I watched the color drain from her face like a plug had been pulled. You sent the itinerary to your work email, I said. Using the name you married into. The password was our anniversary. You wanted me to find it? She swallowed hard. No. You just forgot to delete it, I said. Sloppy. She dropped her eyes. The silence between us felt like ice stretching across a frozen lake. I'm sorry, she whispered. I wish I could take it back. You can't. I pulled the flash drive from my pocket. Held it up between 2 fingers. This is everything. Him. His invoices. His fraud. Enough to get him fired and investigated. She stared at it like it might bite. You wouldn't, she said. I already did, I lied. She took a step forward. Dan, if this gets out. What? I said, voice low. What, Erica? You'll lose your standing? Your friends at work won't ask you to brunch anymore? She shook her head, blinking fast now. It'll destroy both of us. No, I said. Just you. I've got nothing left to lose. That landed hard. She didn't cry. Not yet. She just nodded, slowly, like she'd been waiting for this version of me to arrive. I pocketed the flash drive again. Turned toward the hallway. I'm staying in the guest room, I said. I'll be gone in a week. I need time to move things. She said nothing. I paused. And if you talk to him again, ever, I'll send this to everyone he's ever worked with. Every supplier. Every client. Every damn employee under him. She nodded again. Tiny. Fragile. I walked to the guest room and closed the door behind me. No lock. No sound. Just the slow, steady breath of a man who finally understood that silence is sometimes the sharpest blade you've got. Avoid generic emotional words, show specific physical reactions and sensory details. Use short, varied sentences and natural speech. The guest room smelled like dust and hand lotion. Same bottle she'd used when her mom visited last fall. Still sitting there on the nightstand, half empty, next to a stack of Reader's Digests and a lavender-scented candle. I hadn't been in this room for more than a few minutes at a time before. Now it was mine, for a while, anyway. The sheets were stiff. The bed creaked if I shifted too fast. The ceiling fan ticked at an uneven rhythm, like it was chewing gum and losing patience. I didn't sleep much that first night back. I kept listening for her. Footsteps in the hallway. A cough. A glass clinking against the sink. But the house stayed quiet. Too quiet. Like it was holding its breath. The next morning, I made coffee before she was up. I moved slowly, deliberately. Made sure every cupboard door closed with a soft thud. I didn't want to wake her. Not out of kindness. Out of control. The more unpredictable I seemed, the more nervous she'd be. I sat at the table in silence and stared at my mug. Same old chipped ceramic with the faded "World's Okayest Husband" printed in blue. Bought it for Father's Day 10 years ago. Now it felt like a cruel joke. When she finally came out, she was barefoot again, wearing a hoodie over pajama shorts. Her hair was tied back messily. She looked at me like someone unsure whether the animal in the room was tame or about to lunge. "Morning," she said. I didn't answer. She made herself a cup of tea. Chamomile. Her usual anxiety fix. I remembered how she used to joke that it was liquid courage for cowards. Now she sipped it like it was her only armor. She sat across from me. I didn't look up. "I've started packing some of your books," she said quietly. "Just so you don't have to, later." Still nothing from me. "You can take the grill too," she added. "I know it was more yours than mine." I finally looked at her. "Why are you pretending this is a civil divorce?" She blinked. I'm not. I'm trying to help." I leaned back. Help would have been not booking a motel under our anniversary password. She flinched, looked down at her mug. We sat in silence for a while. Just the sound of the ceiling fan and the distant hum of a neighbor's lawnmower. Then she said something that made my stomach knot. "He said you'd do this." I froze. "Who?" "Ken," she whispered. "He said you'd find a way to make it hurt. That you wouldn't just leave." I stared at her for a second, trying to read her face. "And you believed him?" "No. I mean, I don't know. He said you were too proud to walk away clean." "Proud?" I repeated. "That's what he called it?" She nodded slowly. I leaned forward, my voice low. He drug you through a motel and lied to you about being single. He's got 2 ex-wives, a fraud history, and a pending IIS complaint. But I'm the problem because I won't just sit quietly? She didn't answer. Instead, she wiped at her cheek and said, I didn't know about all that. Sure you did, I said. Maybe not the paperwork. But you felt it. You just ignored it because it made you feel young. That hit. She looked away. I found something else, I added. In your nightstand. She tensed. I waited a beat. Let the tension stretch out like elastic. Then I reached into my pocket and slid the object across the table. A small black notebook. Leather cover. Worn edges. Her journal. I'd found it half buried under old receipts and hand cream when I went looking for a charger the night before. She didn't touch it. Just stared. You think I read it? I asked. She didn't respond. I didn't. Not yet. But you know what I'm wondering? Whether you wrote about me. Or just about him. Her hands curled around the mug tighter. I tapped the notebook. You want to talk? Start here. Her voice cracked. That's private. I laughed once. Cold. So was our marriage. Silence again. Then she finally said, there's nothing in there that would change your mind. Then why are you scared? She stood up abruptly. Took her mug to the sink. I waited a beat, then called after her. Does he know I'm back in the house? She stopped at the sink, shoulders stiff. No, she said. You sure? Yes. Because if he shows up here, I paused. Well. Let's just say he won't like how proud I still am. She turned and gave me a look I hadn't seen in months. Fear. Not panic. But that careful kind of fear, like she realized too late that the rules had changed, and I was no longer playing defense. And I wasn't bluffing. Not even a little. Later that day, I opened the journal. Just 1 page. And there it was. A date. A list. A memory. March 3rd. Motel 6. First time we made love. He said I tasted like red wine and freedom. I closed it. Put it back in the drawer. And smiled. Avoid generic emotional words, show specific physical reactions and sensory details. Use short, varied sentences and natural speech. 2 days passed before she brought up the journal again. I didn't mention it. Didn't quote it. Didn't leave it out where she'd notice. I just let the silence hang around us like fog. Thick. Suffocating. Untouchable. She'd started walking softer through the house. Closing doors without letting them click. Making coffee and only pouring 1 cup, hers. I noticed all of it. I was in the garage that morning, organizing my tools. Not because I needed to, but because I wanted to hear the sound of metal clinking. Wanted to smell the oil and rubber. I needed reminders that I still existed beyond her lies. I was wiping down a wrench when she stepped into the doorway. Barefoot again. Always barefoot now, like she was afraid to make a sound. Can we talk? She asked. I didn't answer. Just kept wiping. She waited a few seconds, then walked in and sat on the bench next to the old compressor. The air between us buzzed faintly with tension. Or maybe it was just the leftover vibration of everything we hadn't said. I've been thinking about what you said, she started. About me feeling young. I still didn't speak. Just set the wrench down and reached for the socket set. She looked down at her hands. Picked at a hangnail. I think you're right, she whispered. That's what it was. That's what he made me feel. Like I wasn't just someone's wife. Or someone's leftover. I looked at her then. And said nothing. I was scared, she continued. That life had already happened. That there wasn't anything left for me except grocery lists and watching you fall asleep during game shows. Must have been hell, I said flatly. She blinked. No, she said. It wasn't hell. It was dull. Comfortable. Safe. Which I know sounds awful. But then he showed up and told me I was funny. And smart. And wanted. I let the silence stretch. Then finally said, "You think I never felt that?" She looked up, startled. "You think I didn't wonder if I was invisible too? If maybe I should flirt back when someone smiled at me in a checkout line?" She opened her mouth, then closed it. "You think I didn't sit in my truck sometimes," I said, "and just stare at the steering wheel, wondering if this was it?" She was crying now. Soft. Controlled. "But I didn't book a motel," I added. "I didn't trade decades for compliments and wine-stained sheets." "I know. You don't," I said. "You can't. Because you walked out of what we built and treated it like a backup plan." She wiped her cheek, nodded. "I know. And I'm sorry." I shook my head. Sorry doesn't fix it. Sorry doesn't erase your Pinterest board. Or your hand on his thigh in room 118. Her face crumpled, and for a moment, I almost felt something like pity. But it passed. "I want to make it right," she said. "Whatever it takes. I'll go to therapy. I'll write you a letter. I'll tell our daughter what I did." That caught my attention. "You haven't told her?" She froze. "No. No. I didn't know how." I stepped forward, just once. "You willing to lie to our daughter?" I said, voice even, "but you here asking me to believe you've changed?" She said nothing. Just stood there, eyes wide. "You tell her by tomorrow," I said. "Or I will." She opened her mouth like she wanted to argue. But then nodded. "Okay," she said quietly. "Tomorrow." I walked past her and back into the house, heart pounding. Not from rage. From clarity. This wasn't about yelling anymore. It was about control. About making sure she understood that I wasn't the one who was small. I was halfway to the guest room when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Again. "Thought you should know. Ken's been texting her again. Thursday night. 11:09 p.m. She deleted the thread. I stopped cold. Turned around. She was still in the garage, staring at the floor like she wanted it to open up and swallow her. I stepped back through the doorway. "Thursday night," I said. "You deleted the messages?" Her head jerked up. Eyes wide. "What?" "You deleted the texts. Thursday. After 11. Her mouth opened. I didn't respond, she said quickly. "He sent something. I deleted it right away." "I swear." "You lied to me," I said. "No," she said, shaking her head. "I swear to God, Dan, I didn't answer. I didn't want to encourage him. I didn't want to start anything again." I stared at her for a long time. Then pulled out my phone and showed her the message. She read it. Went pale. Then said nothing. Which told me everything. "You're out of time," I said. "You have 1 day. Tell our daughter. Come clean. Or I will." Then I walked out. And behind me, I heard her whisper something I wasn't supposed to hear. It wasn't supposed to go this far. She was wrong. It was just getting started. Avoid generic emotional words, show specific physical reactions and sensory details. Use short, varied sentences and natural speech. The next morning, she told our daughter. I wasn't in the room when it happened. I was outside, sitting on the back steps with a thermos of black coffee and a Marlboro I hadn't smoked in years. I just held it. Lit it once. Let it burn down to the filter without taking a single drag. I listened through the cracked kitchen window. Her voice was low. Tight. Like she was trying not to choke. Our daughter, Lindsay, didn't yell. She didn't cry. She just got very, very quiet. That's what killed me most. Lindsay was 27. Married, 2 kids. She used to call me her anchor, and she used to call her mom her sun. And now, the sun was flickering, fading, dropping behind a version of her mother she didn't recognize. When they finished, I heard the screen door creak and Lindsay's footsteps crunch on the gravel as she walked around the side of the house. She saw me. Froze. Then came over and sat on the bottom step next to me. Neither of us said anything for a while. The sky was overcast, light wind moving the oak branches above. Somewhere down the street, someone was mowing their lawn. The smell of fresh-cut grass mixed with the sour edge of my untouched cigarette. Finally, Lindsay spoke. She told me everything, she said. Or what she says is everything. I didn't respond. Just nodded. I don't even know what to say, she added. You don't have to, I said. She paused. Are you okay? Not really. She exhaled, slow. I thought maybe something was wrong between you two. But I didn't think it was this. She said that? I asked. Lindsay nodded. She said she lost herself. That she didn't feel seen. That she made the worst mistake of her life. I turned my head toward her. She told you about the motel? Her eyes went down. Yes. I stared at the gravel. My coffee had gone cold. I can't forgive her for that, Lindsay said, and her voice cracked on the last word. I don't even know her right now. She's still your mother, I said, even though the words felt like chewing glass. She should have thought about that before she decided to play house with some loser in a Motel 6. I looked at her. That fire in her. It was mine. And I hated that it had to come from this. She said you've been cruel, Lindsay added, softer now. Not loud. Not mean. Just cold. I nodded. That's the plan, I said. She looked at me, startled. I'm not here to make her feel better, I told her. I'm here to remind her who the hell she walked away from. Lindsay didn't speak for a while. Just sat there, staring into the grass like it had answers. Finally, she stood. Brushed the back of her jeans. If you need anything, she said, I'm here. I nodded again. She paused. Dad? Yeah. I don't blame you. I want you to know that. Then she walked back through the side gate, and I sat there for another hour with a cigarette I never smoked, and a mug I never refilled. That afternoon, Erica came into the guest room without knocking. Her eyes were red. No makeup. The lines around her mouth deeper than I remembered. She hates me, she said. She's angry, I corrected. There's a difference. She said I betrayed her too. You did. She sat down at the edge of the bed. Not close. Just enough to let her weight shift the mattress. I don't know how to come back from this, she said. I stood, walked over to the dresser, and pulled out a folder. Dropped it onto the bed. What's this? She asked. The rest of Ken's file. I sent the first version to his corporate office this morning. She opened the folder slowly. Looked at the printouts. Highlighted lines. Photos. Expense reports. Fraud notes. Her hands were shaking. This is everything? Almost. She closed the folder. You're going to ruin him, she said. No, I replied. He ruined himself. I'm just making sure no one misses it. She looked up at me, and for the first time, there was something like acceptance. Not apology. Not fear. Just the realization that this wasn't temporary. I don't think I'll ever stop regretting this, she said. I hope you don't. She stood to leave. Stopped in the doorway. What happens after this? She asked. I stared at her. You go your way. I go mine. And Lindsay? She'll figure it out. She's stronger than both of us. Erica nodded once. Then left the room. And for the first time since all this started, I felt something close to clean air in my lungs. I wasn't whole. But I wasn't waiting anymore either. Avoid generic emotional words, show specific physical reactions and sensory details. Use short, varied sentences and natural speech. I spent the next 2 days dismantling our life. Not with fire. Not with shouting. Just, quietly. I started with the garage. Labeled my tools. Took down the framed photos she'd never cared about, me and Lindsay at the old Mariners game, that dusty picture of my dad and me covered in engine grease from when I was 15. I packed them into a Rubbermaid bin and slid it near the door. She didn't offer to help. She didn't interrupt. She just hovered, like a tenant afraid of the landlord. At one point, I saw her watching from the hallway as I took my fishing gear down from the pegboard. She used to call those trips pointless weekends with worms and beer. Now she said nothing as I pulled each rod from its hook and wiped them clean. Inside, I started sorting the books. Mine went into boxes: a Cormac McCarthy, Steinbeck, a dog-eared repair manual for a 78 F-150 I never finished restoring. Her cookbooks stayed on the shelf. I didn't touch them. When I got to the photo albums, I hesitated. Not because I wanted to keep them, but because I didn't know what to do with them. Our wedding. Lindsay's first birthday. Vacations. Christmas mornings in flannel pajamas. I thumbed through a few pages. My face in all of them, smiling, unaware. There was one shot I'd forgotten, her asleep on my chest during a thunderstorm in a cabin up north. I looked exhausted, rain smearing the window behind us. But I remember that night clear as day. She kept her hand on my ribs the entire time like I was the only thing holding her steady. I ripped it out and folded it in half. The rest, I put back on the shelf. Let her decide what parts of that history she wanted to keep. On the third day, I moved to the bedroom. I packed only what I needed. My clothes. A couple old watches. My shaving kit. Everything else could stay. I didn't want to carry the ghost of her perfume on my collars. While folding my shirts, I noticed a pair of earrings on the dresser, gold hoops I never bought her. They hadn't been there last week. I picked them up. Cold. Too new. I walked down the hallway and found her in the laundry room, sorting towels in silence. These yours? I asked, holding them up. She glanced at them. Her face dropped. They are mine, she said. No, I said, I mean, are they from him? She hesitated. Then nodded once. I set them on top of the dryer. Thanks, I said. Now I don't have to wonder. She looked down, rubbing her arm like she was cold. I should have thrown them out, she muttered. No, I said. It's good you didn't. That's how you slip up. That's how the truth finds light. Later that evening, I sat at the kitchen table eating takeout from the taco truck down the block. She didn't join me. Just stayed in the living room with the TV on low, pretending to read something on her phone. Halfway through my burrito, my phone buzzed. Ray. You'll want to see this. Attached was a PDF. Public records search. Ken had a third apartment. One listed under a shell company with his initials. Paid in cash. Furnished. Short-term lease. Guess where it was? Santa Fe. 2 blocks from the hotel they were booked at. I clicked on the address. Then cross-referenced it with old photos on Erica's hidden Pinterest board. One picture had a faint skyline view from a patio. Same skyline. Same direction. Same railing pattern. She'd been there already. I looked up, across the room, where she was sitting curled on the couch. She looked so normal. So small. A woman winding down after a long day. But the lies around her were enormous. Stacked like scaffolding. I stood and walked over. Quiet. Held out my phone. She looked at it. Then at me. Then turned pale. You went there, I said. Her mouth opened. Closed. Then, nothing. You lied again, I said. Santa Fe wasn't going to be your first trip. Just the first one that looked respectable. She blinked fast, her voice cracking. I didn't, he said it was just a place to crash. I didn't stay there. I swear to God, Dan. You took that picture, I said. You pinned it. You planned this. And now you're scrambling to rewrite it. I was confused, she said, her voice breaking. No, I said. You were selfish. That's different. She reached out, like she wanted to grab my arm. I stepped back. You can't keep doing this, I said. There's no coming back. I'm not giving you space to rewrite the story. Tears were falling now. Slow. Honest, maybe. But I didn't care. I turned away. And as I walked down the hallway, past the photos and the ghosts, I heard her whisper. I don't know who I am anymore. But I did. She was the woman who left me long before I ever packed a bag. Avoid generic emotional words, show specific physical reactions and sensory details. Use short, varied sentences and natural speech. I moved out the next morning. Didn't say goodbye. Didn't leave a note. I waited until she went to her office, a new routine she'd started since the fallout. Earlier, quieter departures. No makeup, loose sweater, eyes always red around the edges. By 7:30, she was gone. By 8:15, the truck was loaded. My boxes didn't take long: clothes, tools, the framed mariner's photo, a few mugs, the laptop. I didn't take the books. Left them on the shelf like forgotten trophies from a tournament we both lost. I left the wedding album on the kitchen table. Face down. Next to it, I placed her earrings. The ones he gave her. Not for drama. Not for revenge. For clarity. I wanted her to know what I remembered. What I chose not to erase. Nate was waiting with the garage door open when I pulled into his driveway. He didn't ask questions. Just helped unload. Made a space in the corner of his den where his old guitar used to sit. By noon, it was like I'd never had a house of my own. Later that day, I opened a new bank account. Transferred everything that was only in my name. The shared account, I left alone for now. But I removed my name from the Costco card and cancelled the joint streaming subscriptions. Then I called a lawyer. She sounded young. Professional. Direct. How fast do you want this? As fast as Washington lets me. Do you have cause? I almost laughed. I have a journal, a motel receipt, a hidden Pinterest board, and surveillance footage. I think I have enough. Got it, she said. Let's talk timelines. We did. 48 hours later, the paperwork was on its way. That night, I finally blocked Erica's number. I didn't tell her I was doing it. I didn't warn her. She'd used up her words. I didn't need more. Instead, I texted Lindsay. Moved out today. Settling in. Don't worry, I'm okay. She replied with a heart emoji and 2 words, proud of you. I stared at that screen longer than I should have. Proud. It didn't feel like anything I'd earned. But it helped. That weekend, I took a drive by the river. Just to move. Just to think. I parked near that old gravel turnout where we used to fish when Lindsay was little. The air was sharp with pine and wet dirt. A breeze rolled off the water. Cold, clean, like it hadn't been touched yet by the weight of someone else's breath. I stepped out, walked down to the shoreline. The river ran quiet this time of year, fast, but low. Still enough to see the stones beneath the surface, slick and pale. I stood there for a long time, hands in my coat pockets, trying to remember what peace felt like. Not silence. Not numbness. But peace. There's a difference. Numbness is empty. Peace is quiet, but full. That's when I realized I wasn't angry anymore. Not like before. I wasn't fantasizing about revenge. I wasn't replaying the dashcam audio or imagining her in that red dress on the motel bed. I was just tired. Not defeated. Not broken. Just ready for it to be over. Back at Nate's, I made us both dinner, something simple. Ground beef, boxed mac and cheese, frozen peas. We ate in the living room while Jeopardy! Played on mute. He cracked a beer. Handed me one. I declined. You sure you're not gonna torch her place? He asked after a while. I shook my head. What for? He grinned. Because it'd be satisfying as hell? I didn't smile. Instead, I said, she's gonna have to live in that house. With those walls. With that silence. He nodded, took another swig. Some things don't need fire, I added. They rot just fine on their own. At 9:13 p.m., my phone buzzed. Blocked number. One message. He's trying to contact Lindsay. Facebook DM, screenshot attached. My stomach flipped. I opened the image. There it was. Ken's name. His profile pic. That stupid forced smile of a man who always thought he could talk his way out of anything. The message. Hey. I know this is weird, but I wanted to explain things from my side. Your mom isn't the only one who made mistakes. I sat up straight. Typed back to the source. How long has this been going on? Reply came quick. Since yesterday. She hasn't responded yet. I called Lindsay immediately. She picked up on the first ring. Dad? Did you see his message? Yeah. I didn't open it. I didn't want to give him the satisfaction. Block him. No. I already did, she said. But I wanted to tell you something. What? I think Mom gave him my name. My married name's not even on Facebook. I sat there, staring at the TV screen. She was still protecting him. Still slipping pieces of me under his door. My jaw tightened. Thanks for telling me, I said. Don't worry, I've got it from here. And I meant it. Because now it wasn't about endings. It was about consequences. Avoid generic emotional words, show specific physical reactions and sensory details. Use short, varied sentences and natural speech. Monday morning hit cold and early. I'd barely slept, but I didn't feel tired. My body had adapted to a new rhythm. A kind of emotional jet lag. Rest didn't come from sleep anymore. It came from progress. By 6:45 a.m., I was in the truck with a copy of Ken's file in the passenger seat. Not a flash drive. Not an email attachment. Printed. Hard copy. In a clean manila envelope, sealed and labeled with 2 words in black ink. Compliance review. I'd done my homework. Ken's employer, Northwest Ortho Logistics, ran a modest regional headquarters off an industrial side street in Spokane Valley. Nothing fancy. Just a brown, 1-story building with tinted windows and a faded company banner that flapped weakly in the wind. The parking lot was half full when I pulled in. I parked near the loading dock and watched the front door for a few minutes. Employees drifted in, mostly middle-aged, carrying thermoses, fast food coffee, energy drinks. No one looked twice at me. At 7:12, a woman pulled in driving a silver Hyundai. Blazer, slacks, phone already to her ear. She stepped out, popped the trunk, grabbed a laptop bag and a cardboard folder, then walked inside with purpose. That was her, Angela Belcourt. Regional Operations Director. Her name was listed on 3 of the invoices Ken had altered. Perfect. I gave it 5 minutes. Then walked in. The receptionist looked up, her mouth halfway through a bite of something wrapped in wax paper. Hi, can I help you? Here to drop this off for Angela Belcourt, I said. Time sensitive. She blinked. Is she expecting you? Nope. She'll know what it is. I set the envelope on the counter and turned around before she could ask another question. Walked out without looking back. I was back in the truck by 7:22. Engine idling. Hands steady. Done. I didn't need to see her reaction. Didn't need to watch Ken get called into a glass office. Didn't need to hear his excuses or watch his face fall when he realized his little games had finally caught up. I just needed to know it was in motion. And it was. Later that afternoon, I got a text from Ray. They opened it. Confirmed by mailroom staff. Buckle up. That was enough. I sat in Nate's garage, watching the light change on the concrete floor as the sun drifted behind the neighbor's trees. The air smelled like dust and old lawnmower gas. Tucker the cat climbed onto a box behind me and started cleaning his paws, like nothing at all was happening. But it was. The machine was moving now. And Ken didn't even know it. At least, not yet. By 5:30, I cracked a beer and sat outside on the porch, phone in hand, letting the weight of it all settle in my chest. Erica hadn't called. Hadn't texted. Blocked or not, I could still sense the tension. Like we were both on opposite sides of a burning bridge, watching the same flames and wondering who'd feel the heat first. Around 6:20, I checked my email. There it was. A new message from a generic company domain, NOL compliance at. Subject, a follow-up, a documentation received. I opened it. This message confirms receipt of materials submitted to our internal audit division. We appreciate your concern and are conducting a preliminary review. Please be aware that any further communication may require legal disclosure processes. I smiled. Short. Cold. Corporate. But beneath that? Panic. I imagined Ken reading that. Trying to figure out who sent what. Pulling files. Scrambling to remember which lie overlapped which. Rechecking timestamps. Wondering who was watching. I hoped it made his chest tight. I hoped he stayed up all night. That night, I went through my texts with Lindsay. Looked at the thread, rereading her message about Erica giving out her name. It hadn't been accidental. I knew that now. And I also knew this wasn't over. Because Ken wasn't going to roll over. Men like him, liars, charmers, they don't run. They maneuver. They manipulate. They shift blame and spin stories until truth doesn't look like truth anymore. So I stayed one step ahead. I forwarded the entire Santa Fe itinerary to Northwest Ortho's HR inbox. With one line. Ask Mr. Rader about this April 12th booking. Check who approved the travel funds. Anonymous. No return address. Just enough. The next day, I got another message from Ray. He's been pulled from the field. Admin leave, pending internal review. He's scrambling. Good. Let him squirm. Let him feel the floor tilt beneath his feet. He wasn't fired yet. But he would be. And I wouldn't even have to lift another finger. Meanwhile, Erica was still sitting in that house. The walls we picked. The paint she chose. The couch we broke in during a snowstorm back in '09. She had it all. But it would never feel like hers again. Because everything she touched now had a shadow. And I was done being the one living in it. Avoid generic emotional words, show specific physical reactions and sensory details. Use short, varied sentences and natural speech. Thursday morning started quiet. Too quiet. I'd gotten used to the rhythm at Nate's, coffee by 7, ESPN murmuring in the background, the sound of the neighbor's retriever scratching at their back door. But that morning, there was none of it. I woke up to silence, a kind that felt unnatural. Like something had paused the world. I made my own coffee, sat out back, let the steam hit my face while the cold settled in around me. It was overcast again. The kind of gray that never quite lifts. The kind you don't notice until you realize it's been there for weeks. Halfway through my second cup, I got the message. From Lindsay. Just 3 words. Check your email. No punctuation. No context. My stomach tightened. I walked inside, opened my laptop, and logged in. There it was. Fresh. Bold. No subject line. From erica.langley@outlook.com to edan.b.reynolds@. This isn't an excuse. I don't expect forgiveness. But I found something. I think you should see it. Attached, A1 document. PDF. I downloaded it, already bracing myself. It was a typed letter. No greeting. No "Dear Dan." No signature. Just a confession. She wrote it like a journal entry. Explained how Ken had kept things from her. That Santa Fe wasn't the first time he'd used that apartment. That she'd suspected something when she saw 2 wine glasses and a lipstick-stained napkin in his trash once. That he told her it was nothing. That he laughed it off. She wrote that she felt sick. That she told him she didn't want to see him anymore. That he'd grown cold after that, distant. Dismissive. You think I'm the only liar in this story, she wrote. But I wasn't even his only secret. She said she wasn't telling me to gain favor. She said she didn't expect me to believe her. She said she just wanted me to know that maybe, just maybe, I wasn't the only one who'd been betrayed. I stared at the screen, unmoving. Not angry. Not vindicated. Just tired. I printed it out and slid it into my folder with the other records. Not because I needed it, but because it felt like part of the story now. Another brick in the slow collapse. Later that afternoon, Nate and I grilled some chicken out back. First warm day in a while. The grass still patchy, but the air was light. I had my feet up on a cinderblock, beer in hand, while Tucker paced lazily by the fence. "You gonna tell her you got the letter?" Nate asked. "No." "You believe it?" "Some of it." He flipped the chicken, nodded. "She's trying to rewrite her ending," he said. "Let her," I replied. "The truth doesn't need her version anymore." After dinner, I checked my phone. Another message. This one from a number I didn't recognize. But the area code? Santa Fe. I stared at it for a full minute before opening it. "You don't know me, but I know Ken. He brought your wife to my place. More than once. She wasn't the only one. Just thought you should know." No name. No follow-up. I replied. "Who are you?" No answer. I forwarded the message to Ray. He responded quick. "Give me 5 minutes." While I waited, I looked back at Erica's letter. Was it damage control? Guilt? Was it her way of trying to share the blame? Then I thought about that lipstick-stained napkin. 2 wine glasses. Trash can evidence. She'd been lied to too. She'd been just as disposable to Ken as I'd been to her. That didn't excuse anything. But it shifted something. The phone buzzed again. Ray. Got her. Local name, Eshana. Airbnb host. 2 prior tenant complaints, both for noise and inappropriate guest behavior. 1 filed a harassment claim. Guess who the guest was? I didn't reply. I didn't have to. Ken was unraveling faster than either of us expected. And Erica? She was left holding the pieces of a man who never meant to stay. Who used her to chase whatever thrill he could wring out of the dying years of his own relevance. That night, I poured myself a whiskey. First one in weeks. Didn't toast. Didn't say anything dramatic. Just sat with it. Felt the burn slide down my throat and settle in my chest. I thought about Erica in that house, alone now, her inbox full of ghosts and guilt. Her phone silent. Her daughter distant. I thought about Ken, sitting in a cheap apartment, wondering which lie would catch up next. And I thought about me. Finally on the outside. Not clean. Not healed. But clear. Avoid generic emotional words, show specific physical reactions and sensory details. Use short, varied sentences and natural speech. I didn't plan to go. But that's how most things happen now, unplanned, unscripted, and suddenly irreversible. It was Sunday morning, mid-April. Weather had finally turned. The air smelled like wet mulch and warming asphalt. The kind of morning where neighbors rolled their trash bins back up the driveway in sweatpants, waving with one hand and coffee in the other. I was halfway through a grocery list when I saw the note in my glove box. The Motel 6 receipt. Crumpled, slightly torn at the edge. I'd thrown it there weeks ago, back when the world was still burning. But now? Now I needed to see it. Not for proof. For something else. The motel was 31 minutes from Nate's, straight up I-90, tucked behind a gas station and a shuttered Denny's. The kind of place people stayed when they didn't want to be seen, or remembered. I pulled in just before noon. It looked exactly how I imagined. 2 levels, outdoor corridors, faded green doors, a vending machine with yellowed buttons. The sign buzzed faintly in the sunlight, $59.99 weekly special. I sat in the truck for a long moment. Engine off. Radio silent. The envelope in the passenger seat holding her journal and Ken's folder just sitting there. Then I got out. Walked past the vending machine, past the front desk where a kid with acne and a hoodie barely looked up. I followed the layout printed on a rusted metal sign near the ice machine. Room 118. First floor. Far end. Facing the dumpster. I stood in front of it and stared at the door. The paint was chipped near the handle. Someone had carved initials into the wood, DT plus ML. I wondered if they regretted it. I didn't knock. Didn't try the handle. I just stood there, breathing in the musty air and watching a pair of squirrels chase each other along the gutter. This was the place she gave herself away. Where a lifetime of shared routines, coffee, bills, traditions, Sunday movies, grilled cheese, and tomato soup in November, were traded for 1 hour of feeling like someone else. This wasn't rage. It wasn't even sadness. It was recognition. That this place, this room, had more power over my marriage than I ever did. And I hated that. So I pulled out my phone. Snapped one photo of the door. Then turned and walked back toward the truck. On the way out, I stopped at the front desk. The kid looked up this time. "You guys keep guest records?" He squinted. "Not past 30 days. Policy." I nodded. Left without another word. As I pulled out of the lot, my phone buzzed. Unknown number again. I almost didn't answer. But I did. A woman's voice. "Is this Dan?" "Who's asking?" "This is Shana. We texted before." My spine straightened. "I only have a second," she continued. "I thought you should know, Ken's been contacting me. Again. Asking what I told you. Said I crossed a line." "When was this?" "Last night. Called twice. Voicemail was aggressive." I stayed quiet. "He thinks you're bluffing," she added. "That you don't have real proof." "I'm not bluffing." "I believe you," she said. "But just watch your back. Guys like him don't go down clean." "I'm not looking for clean," I said. "Just done." She exhaled into the phone. "I hope you get there." Then the line went dead. I drove the rest of the way in silence. Didn't turn the radio on. Didn't check my mirrors more than I needed. Just stared straight ahead. Thinking about how Erica had once told me she'd never cheat. That cheating was a weak person's way out. She said it while folding laundry, a pair of my socks in her hand. Funny, the things we remember. I got back to Nate's, went straight to the garage, and printed the photo of room 118. Pinned it to the corkboard above the workbench. Next to it, I pinned the receipt. Below that, a copy of the email from Ken's HR department, the one confirming he was on leave pending further investigation. And finally, the page from Erica's journal. The line about how he made her feel like red wine and freedom. I didn't pin them out of obsession. I pinned them to finish something. To remind myself that this wasn't just grief. This was evidence. And evidence, unlike emotion, doesn't lie. I stared at the board for a long time. Then pulled out a blank index card. Wrote one word. Done? Underlined it. Twice. But I didn't hang it up. Not yet. Because the truth? I wasn't sure if it was over. Not while he was still moving pieces. Not while she was still rewriting pages. And not while part of me still felt the sting of something unspoken. Avoid generic emotional words, show specific physical reactions and sensory details. Use short, varied sentences and natural speech. 3 days later, I got the call. It came just after 11 a.m., while I was restocking screws at Lowe's. I'd been trying to keep busy. Touch real things. Metal. Wood. Anything heavier than memory. The number wasn't saved, but I knew it. Angela Belcourt. Regional Director. Ken's boss. I stepped into the garden shed display and answered. This is Dan. Pause. Mr. Reynolds, thank you for speaking with me. Her voice was calm. Trained. But I could hear it, that thin edge of discomfort. I'm calling as a courtesy, not an official update, she said. But I wanted you to be aware that your materials have resulted in the immediate suspension of Mr. Rader. I didn't speak. He has been placed on indefinite leave while our legal and HR departments complete the internal investigation. There may be additional steps involving external audits. I waited. Let her finish. Then said, is he fighting it? Another pause. There has been some resistance. But the documentation is substantial. That word sat there like a brick. Substantial. I appreciate the follow-up, I said. Mr. Reynolds, she added, voice tightening, off the record. I've worked with that man for 5 years. I had no idea. I almost told her. But what would I even say? That people like Ken always know how to stay charming just long enough? That they build traps out of smiles and handshakes? I just said, neither did I. She exhaled. Take care. And the line went dead. I stood there for a few minutes in that prefab shed, listening to the sound of a kid crying 2 aisles over. Felt like background music to the moment. I didn't smile. Didn't pump a fist. Just walked out and bought a $6 box of screws I didn't need. Back at Nate's, I sat on the back porch, watching the clouds gather in slow spirals above the neighbor's chimney. April wind carried the scent of pine and distant firewood. I called Ray. Told you it'd stick, he said. Guy's been corner cutting since at least 19. Think he'll lose his license? Depends what they find in his past 5 audits. But I'd say it's headed there. And Erica? She's radio silent. Not posting. No updates. Not even grocery store check-ins. Just, off the grid. Good, I said. But something about it didn't feel good. Something about the silence felt like a fuse burning under a floorboard. That night, just after 10, I heard a knock at the front door. 3 times. Sharp. Nate was asleep. I stood at the top of the stairs for a few seconds, listening. Another knock. I opened it. And there she was. Erica. Hair pulled back. Eyes raw. No makeup. Just a dark windbreaker and jeans. In her hand? A manila envelope. I didn't invite her in. She didn't ask. She just held out the envelope like it was radioactive. I got a letter from him, she said. I didn't take it. What do you want me to do with it? I asked. Nothing, she said. I just thought, you should know. I waited. She swallowed hard. He's blaming you. Says you sabotaged his career. Says I should have warned him you were vindictive. I raised an eyebrow. That's rich. She nodded. He said he could still fix this. That I just had to say the right things. That he'd sue if he had to. I finally took the envelope. He's not gonna fix anything, I said. You know that. I do now, she said softly. The wind picked up behind her. A few dry leaves skidded across the driveway. She looked down at her shoes, then back up. I should have come clean sooner. You shouldn't have lied at all. She nodded again. I just wanted to matter to someone. And I was invisible? Her face broke then. Not into tears, but something worse. Recognition. You weren't invisible, she whispered. You were steady. I mistook that for Stillness. I thought I needed noise. Turns out, I just needed clarity. Too late. Way too late. I'm sorry, she said again. For what that's worth. I didn't answer. She started to turn. Then paused. He said something else, she added. He said he'd make you regret this. That got my attention. Did he threaten me? No, she said quickly. Not like that. Just said he had nothing to lose now. That's what people say before they lose more. She nodded and walked away. Didn't look back. I closed the door, carried the envelope into the kitchen, and set it on the counter. I didn't open it. Not yet. Instead, I poured a drink. Sat in the dark. Let the weight of it sit on the table. Let the silence stretch. And for the first time, I realized I wasn't afraid of Ken. But I wasn't done with him either. Avoid generic emotional words, show specific physical reactions and sensory details. Use short, varied sentences and natural speech. The envelope sat on the kitchen counter all night. I didn't touch it. Didn't even look at it once I turned off the light. Just left it there, right next to Nate's half-full bag of tortilla chips and an unopened bottle of ranch dressing. That's where it belonged, between the disposable things. I slept light. Woke around 5:20. Made coffee in silence, the way I used to before early shifts at the old freight terminal. Muscle memory. Mark. 2 scoops. Tap the canister with the spoon twice. I sat down with my cup and finally opened the envelope. Ken's handwriting was messy. Big letters. The kind of script that tries to look casual, like he doesn't care how it lands. But the slants gave him away, he was angry. Pressing too hard. Trying too hard. The letter was short. A page and a half. He didn't start with "Dear Dan." Just jumped in. You probably think you've won. And maybe you have. You got me pulled off the floor. You got Angela and those bastards upstairs to start digging into things they never cared about before. Congratulations. I took a sip of my coffee. Bitter. No sugar. Let the words keep coming. But let me tell you something, as she came to me. Not the other way around. She was miserable long before I showed up. You just didn't notice. I stopped there. That line didn't sting like he thought it would. I had noticed. I just hadn't known what to do with the distance. She stopped laughing at my jokes. Stopped reaching for my hand during commercials. Started locking her phone during dinner. He was right. She was gone before he ever touched her. But that didn't make what he did any less calculated. I kept reading. You think you're some noble guy, exposing everything, playing the long game. But you just another control freak with too much time and too little self-awareness. She might have slept in your bed, but she belonged to herself. You couldn't handle that. That one landed harder. Because buried in all the rage, he said something that had truth around the edges. I couldn't handle it. Not because I wanted to own her. But because I believed, stupidly, that vows still meant something. That quiet loyalty was enough. That showing up every day, keeping the roof steady and the fridge stocked and the lights on, was the same as being chosen. It wasn't. I got to the end of the letter. You can keep your little victory. You can sit in your folding chair of righteousness and pretend it doesn't hurt that she looked somewhere else. But just remember, she never ran to you. Even now. That silence you're living in? That's the sound of being forgotten. No signature. Just those last few words, like a knife left in a drawer. I folded the letter. Placed it in the trash can. Didn't rip it. Didn't burn it. Just let it sit on top of an empty egg carton and an old ad flyer for Tractor Supply. Trash finds its level. I spent the rest of the morning driving. Nowhere specific. Just needed to move. Let the air fill my lungs. Let the road stretch long enough to make the world feel bigger than the sting of someone's ego. I ended up at the marina on the edge of Lake Coeur d'Alene. Quiet this time of year. Just a few retirees walking their dogs and a group of high schoolers skipping class, vaping behind the restrooms. I sat on the dock, boots dangling over the edge. Wind kicked up a little. Smelled like lake water and sunblock from last summer. I watched the water. Thought about that last line. That's the sound of being forgotten. He was wrong. That wasn't silence. That was space. And space was a gift. Not everyone deserves it. But some of us need it. At noon, I called Ray. Tie up the loose ends, I told him. You sure? I don't want anything lingering. No problem, he said. Already pulled the county property records. Turns out our friend's been in some creative debt. Perfect, I said. And Erica? She's out of this. You trust her now? No, I said. But I'm done needing her to admit anything. That evening, I drove past our old house. The porch light was off. No cars in the driveway. I parked half a block away and just watched. Felt nothing. No surge of memory. No longing. Just observation. Like looking at a place where something once happened, but now it's just structure. On the way back to Nate's, I stopped at the mailbox. Pulled out a padded envelope addressed to me in my own handwriting. Return address, and my lawyer. Inside? Finalized divorce packet. Unsigned, but ready. I sat in the driveway with the packet on my lap. Read every word. Twice. Then I grabbed a pen from the glove box. Signed every page. Date. Initials. Signature. All of it. I sealed it up. Tomorrow, I'd mail it. And that would be it. Avoid generic emotional words, show specific physical reactions and sensory details. Use short, varied sentences and natural speech. I mailed the divorce packet on a Wednesday. No ceremony. No final glance. Just slipped the manila envelope into the blue box outside the post office on East Sprague and kept walking. Wind cut through my flannel. The air smelled like wet pavement and exhaust. A man passed me carrying donuts in a white box, his daughter skipping next to him in mismatched gloves. The world moved on. I let it. Back at Nate's, the place was empty. He'd gone fishing that morning, said he needed air. I didn't ask if he meant for himself or for me. I sat at the kitchen table, staring at the spot where her letter had been a week ago. The space felt clearer now. Like the absence of drama was a kind of peace. I turned on the radio. Let the static fill the room for a few seconds before finding an old country station. Johnny Cash. Gravel in his throat. Truth in every note. I poured coffee. Sat back. And just breathed. At 3:17 p.m., I got a text. From an unknown number. He's gone. No explanation. No signature. But I knew. Ken. I replied. Gone how? 10 minutes passed. Then. Terminated. Effective immediately. Ethics violations. Financial misconduct. HR confirmed. Thought you'd want to know. I stared at the screen. Not satisfied. Not gloating. Just still. The man who tried to dismantle my marriage had finally unraveled his own life. And I wasn't even in the room. That night, I cooked dinner for the first time in weeks. Nothing fancy, pan-seared chicken, frozen green beans, garlic toast from a box. But it was mine. I turned on the TV halfway through eating, just for background noise. A rerun of some sitcom from the 90s. Laugh track, canned jokes, people pretending to be happy. I turned it off. Silence suited me better now. Around 9:40, my phone buzzed again. This time? Lindsay. Can I call? I said yes. She sounded tired. Calm. I heard about Ken, she said. Me too. I'm not sad, she added quickly. Just relieved. Me too. Silence for a moment. Then I talked to Mom. That pulled my spine straight. She's moving, Lindsay said. Putting the house up next month. Said she wants to start over. Somewhere warm. I let that hang. Okay, I said. She asked if I'd tell you. Why? She said you deserve to know. I paused. Thought of the porch. The empty kitchen. The rooms we filled and emptied with promises. She's right, I said. More silence. Then Lindsay spoke, soft. She wanted me to ask if you'd meet for coffee before she leaves. I felt something shift in my chest. Not pain. Just weight. Why? I asked. She said she's not asking for anything. Just a goodbye. I didn't answer right away. Instead, I looked around Nate's kitchen, the place that held me while I collapsed and stood back up again. A cat meowed in the hallway. My boots were by the door. A mug I liked sat clean in the sink. I had nothing left to say to Erica. But maybe silence deserved an echo. Okay, I said. Lindsay's breath hitched slightly. You sure? Just coffee. Okay. I hung up. Didn't feel triumphant. Didn't feel cracked open. Just finished. 2 days later, we met at a diner halfway between Spokane and the Idaho border. Neutral ground. She wore a gray sweater. No makeup. Same gold ring on her right hand she always wore when nervous. I sat first. She joined a minute later. We ordered coffee. And for the first time in nearly 3 decades, we sat as strangers. She didn't cry. Neither did I. We just talked. About Lindsay. About the garden she was going to miss. About the neighbor's dog that always peed on our porch. She never said, "I'm sorry" again. She didn't need to. And I didn't offer forgiveness. That wasn't what this was. When the check came, I paid. When we stood, I didn't reach for her hand. When she walked away, I didn't watch her go. I drove home alone, radio off, one hand on the wheel. The road ahead was clear. No detours. No review ghosts. Just space. And this time? I wasn't afraid to take it.